So apparently Brexit speeches are now going to be protected under the law, at least in employment law, because for some reason we have to discuss whether or not you should be allowed to be employed and also be pro-Brexit. I know.
Are you allowed to have an opinion?
Well,
that the Remainers disagree with?
Depends if you're a member of a union, apparently. So this is Paul Embery, who's won here. So UK firefighter sacked for giving pro-Brexit speech wins unfair dismissal claim.
Good.
And great news. I quite like Paul Embery, even though he is a man of the left. He definitely is. He is a huge trade unionist, which is why it's ironic for him getting kicked out by his own union because, well, he had wrong think, didn't he?
Well, yeah.
You would have thought made him think about this sort
of
things.
You didn't like the giant international neoliberal protectionist superstate? Oh, wow. Get fired.
So here's the story. A former fire brigade union leader who was sacked in response to speaking at a pro-Brexit rally has successfully won an unfair dismissal claim after a tribunal found that he had been the victim of a, quote, witch hunt.
Right. Nice to know that the fire brigade union is actively conducting witch hunts.
Against pro-Brexit members. That's the crime. Being pro-Brexit.
That's literally what the tribunal has found.
Yeah. So Paul Embery successfully sued the FBU for being removed from the national executive after arguing that he was dismissed for his pro-Brexit views and claimed that he was a victim of a blatant dig for dirt to remove him. Absolutely true, as has been found.
I can't even pretend to be surprised, to be honest.
Embery was accused of undermining the FBU in his speech alongside Nigel Farage at the Leave Means Leave rally in London in March 2019. So he went to the rally for Brexit in 2019 in the era of treason, which the government was trying to not enact the referendum.
Well, we had a rally at the same time, didn't we?
Yeah, and he gave a speech which was just do what the voters told you to do. That's the whole point of these rallies, both of them.
How is that undermining the fire brigade union?
Well, because most likely they were supporting Jeremy Corbyn or whatever, and the position of Labour was treason. So,
well, was it though? That's the problem. Like the position of Labour was nobody knows what Labour's position on Brexit is.
Depends on what day of the week it is. When
exactly. Even though everyone knew Jeremy Corbyn was a hardcore Brexiteer. In fact, I based a lot of my pro-Brexit arguments on Jeremy Corbyn's comments from like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, especially on Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. Comrade Corbyn, when it came to Brexit, didn't have the courage of his own convictions.
The tribunal argued that, quote, it appeared from the start of the investigation process that there was an agenda to have the claimant removed. The judge further stated that the investigation looked no more than a witch hunt. The ambit of the investigation when looking for the facts was bizarre. How could any fair-minded member come to a reasonable belief on the facts that the claimant had committed any form of misconduct?
Well, he had an opinion that the Remain establishment in the fire brigade union didn't agree with. So
judges usually aren't this strident about just calling the parties in the lawsuits a witch hunt. You know, these kind of people. And you might wonder, well, why is this guy hated so much? I know a lot of foreigners might not know who Paul Embery is. He's Blue Labour. So he's the side of the Labour Party that don't believe in wokeism.
Yes, they're socially conservative.
They believe in socialist economics, God knows why, but they are culturally conservative on a lot of things compared to the wokest, but then who isn't, I guess. Anyway, so here's an example of why he ain't woke. This is a clip of the the Olympics, where they were being asked about Laurel Hubbard, you know, the man who is saying he's a woman. Yeah, and their silence says it all, he says. So let's play this first clip and let's experience this.
Kevin Farley from the International Weightlifting Federation. This is for Emily. You went to the United States earlier this year and you trained side by side with Sarah in Utah. What was that experience like then and now when you are competing on the same Olympic stage?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I was really honored to be invited out to the States to train with the guys, and especially Sarah. You know, we get on really well. We're very like-minded people, and it was just really, you know, inspiring to push each other and to get each other ready for these Olympics. And you know, I'm absolutely thrilled that I managed to share a podium with her because she's a real sweetheart.
So
it was a historic night here with Laurel Hubbard competing as the first openly transgender in a individual event. And I was wondering, you know, what you felt about that and what you felt that it took place in your sport.
Who's the thirsty dude on the right?
No, thank you.
It's a woman right there.
But just the silence, like, let's ask you about this historic moment.
Yeah,
but I love all of them. Like,
I just love the response. No, thank you. But yeah, Paul Embery. I like his position. Who can blame them for not wishing to legitimize such grotesque unfairness?
Can't.
No.
We were looking for a symbol for the people who believe women are women, because if we're going to legalize all political protest at the Olympics, as has been seen, then the people who believe that women are women should have their own symbol. We couldn't think of one, but the silence, actually, I don't know if that works or something, or just no thank you. Just no, not doing this. Like, don't stop wasting our time, but whatever. Something to think about. Anyway, so the last thing here, just to mention about how he's definitely not woke, as well as him being on GB News.
Absolutely not woke then.
Yeah, so he was happy to go on there and talk about the reality of the Labour Party, which is, well, I kind of feel bad for Blue Labour in this sense.
Yeah.
That they're fighting a losing battle, but in my opinion, get out.
I mean, Keir Starmer's doing quite a good job of driving off the woke prats from the Labour Party.
He's good at getting rid of the socialists, not the wokeists, I don't think. Wow. In my opinion.
There's going to be a severe crossover there on that Venn diagram, isn't there?
Less than you'd think.
Really?
Yeah, there are a lot of socialists who aren't wokeists because they're like, no, class politics, that's where we are. And they're like, yeah, but what about race and gender? Shut up! Class traitor!
But I mean, I like his statement here. The reality is the Labour Party has become a party of social activists, student radicals, and middle-class liberals living in fashionable towns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you couldn't make that point any more clear by just looking at the map of where the Conservatives won and where they didn't win. And he is right.
Yeah. Paul Embery talks a lot of sense living in reality land where
Yes.
wokeism is nonsense. And that's his crime, fundamentally. So when he gave that speech about Brexit, that was their opportunity to strike at him. And he's won. So good for him.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's won there. So Brexit speeches, protected speech. If you are kicked out of your job or position for making one, apparently you can win in court.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.